Good afternoon, friends. Today we are discussing very important topic. So we are seeing that Indian rupee is falling. Currently, the price of Indian rupees is international market is $96 around. So we will discuss why this is Indian rupee is depreciating so rapidly. It is going to all-time high, all-time low in the history. So we will discuss what are the reasons and what are the solutions that our government is doing. So first of all, the main important cause of rupees falling is we are import more and export less. So when we import more from the other countries, during that importing, most of the international trade is happening in the dollar. So when the demand of dollar increases, that ultimately demand of rupee is decreases. So that is why it creates burden on the rupee. That is very important factor. The next reason of falling of Indian rupee is expensive crude oil. Like we are seeing that India imports around 85% of crude oil of its need, and we are the second largest consumption market of crude oil. So that's why second not we are third largest consumes crude oil. So that is why when we import expensive crude oil from the nations, so that creates more burden on the rupee. Another important factor is because when we get expensive crude oil, that is also happening in the dollar. So it creates demand of dollar more, and demand of rupee is decreases. So that is why the value of rupee is depreciate through that crude oil expansiveness. The third important reason, FII, that is the foreign investor and foreign portfolio investors pulling out money from the Indian market. So the main reason of that is which money they have invested in India, they pull out because of some risks. Like they observe that in the Indian market their money is not getting more return or not safe, so they remove that money and invest in other foreign countries like South Korea, Vietnam, US. So that's why that creates more uncertainty in the market, and more we reduce our money. So that's why that's important factor. The fourth important reason is increased interest rates in US. We are seeing that whenever US Fed is the central agency of US which decide the interest rates of the all banks in the US. So when it increases their interest rates, that time the investors around the world sees it as opportunity and they invest more money in the US, and which already invested in the developing countries like India, they remove their money from India and they invest in the US. So they they feels that their money will be safe and they will get more stable interest. That's also important reason of rupee depreciation. The fifth reason is trade deficit, that we are seeing that like our neighbor country China, we imports more than what we exports to them. Like other expect US, we all countries, most of the countries have the trade deficit with India. So that is why this also creates burden on the Indian economy and ultimately the rupee. The last and sixth factor is that global uncertainty. Like we are seeing that India was importing crude oil from Russia, and after sanctioning from the US, we reduced our importing capacity from the Russia, so we were getting the cheap crude oil from the Russia, and that is stopped somehow, some extent. Alongside that, we are seeing that Russia-Ukraine war is happening. So Middle East war is also important factor, that important sea lane, that is the Strait of Hormuz, is blocked because of the war. The uncertainty in the region, that creates more blockade of the shipments of the crude oil, and that's why that ultimately creates the burden on the Indian rupee. So how when we are not getting the cheap crude oil, then we want to buy from the other countries, because India is the largest consumption market of energy, as we are the largest populous country, 1.5 billion people around. So that is how it creates more burden on the Indian rupee, and that's the main reason. Like 3 months happened, but US Middle East war is not stopped till now. So that's why that creates more uncertainty, and it creates more burden on the Indian rupees and economy. So the benefits of there are also lots of benefits from the depreciation of rupees, but we will discuss. First of all, we can increase our export. Like when we export the product from the India to US, we can see that the reduced rates of the Indian rupee, they can get cheaper in the other markets like US. So so that's why it can increase our selling, and it can also increase our import. That is the main important benefit from the depreciation of rupee. Talking about the losses of depreciation, first is import cost increases. When we import the products to the other countries, from the other countries, we have to be using that trade in the dollar. So we have to give more rupees we have to in terms of dollar. So that's why it creates more demand of the dollar, and rupees demand reduces. The second factor is foreign education and travel expenses can be expensive. So that's why, like when students going to the abroad, they want to exchange their money in return of rupee. So that's why it can be increased. As we are saying, the Indian rupee's value is comparatively low. So for this solving this problem, our government is taking some steps through the RBI. That is the our Reserve Bank of India sells their dollar from their reserves to control the price of the rupee. The next step they takes, like, changes interest rates in the Indian bank system. So because of that, it can be attracted the investors through this by changing the interest rates. If RBI will increase rate, so foreign investors will also attract, and they can also invest more money in the Indian market. So the next important factor is that stabilizes market. RBI does stabilize the market through some policies like monetary policy. So that are the things that government is doing. So talking about all the things, we can conclude one thing, that we can't manage the world crisis at a single-handedly, but to stabilize the market and Indian rupee, we can take small steps by exporting more, by becoming manufacturing self-sufficient, and using the made in India products. That's important thing, that to stop this crisis of Indian rupee depreciation. Thank you.